Welcome back to my channel. If you're first time visiting, thanks for joining me. Usually I'm on here doing finish repairs and neck resets on vintage acoustic guitars, but this one's kind of special. This is one of these Gibson historic 1959 replicas, and we're gonna change the pickups. There's a couple features on this guitar that I wanted to point out. These are the pickups that he chose, and Stormy Monday. So his reasoning for buying this is that it looks exactly like, or as close to, Duane Allman's famous 59 Gibson Les Paul Standard. So back in those days, the pickup rings were way fatter, especially this one. Now, he said it sounded super muddy to him, and that's another reason right away he wanted to change out the pickups. But right away I can see that these pickups are way too close to the strings. So, and he likes the action as low as possible, he told me. So I might skim off a little bit underneath from the bottom side of this pickup ring to get the pickup a little bit lower, so it has more clarity, is what we want to get. Another thing about these is that they have this old-fashioned truss rod cover. The serial numbers are 6 or 5 digits, starting with a 9, I've noticed. Oh, the neck profile. This is not a fat neck. Some of the new Les Paul Juniors have way fatter necks than this. But the way I would describe this neck is that it's a C shape down here, and then what happens up here is the shoulders decrease, so it becomes more of a V shape, or more of a pointy C shape up here, which is very, very comfortable. He really loves the way this neck feels. I think I would appreciate the way it feels too after I play it for a little while. It has this special emblem on there. It has paper and oil capacitors. It has braided wire running to the pickups and to the switch. So there's 2 braided wires per pot. Old-fashioned wiring. This route is way deeper than any other Les Paul I've ever seen come through here, anyways, any that I've seen. They round over the binding so it's more comfortable, like it's worn already. They also have the tunematic posts drilled directly into the wood. There aren't bushings. And then it has a light relic. I don't see that there's really any relic in the lacquer. They didn't buff it completely as glossy as I've seen a lot of modern Les Pauls, but I think the first thing we should do is listen to it. Now, a guitar with this kind of price tag, usually you'd think right off the shelf it would sound fantastic. You wouldn't need to change anything. It sounded fine to me when I plugged it in the first time, but it's not my guitar. And I'm not emotionally attached to this guitar. So he's just paying me to swap out the pickups, and that's what we're going to do. Let's give it a listen now, and then we'll give it a listen later. I'm almost sure I can get a little more clarity out of it, because these pickups seem way too high to me. Let's see. Pull the strings off, the pick guard, move the ABR1 bridge off there, and the tailpiece. Kind of clearing off the area here. before I have too much coffee. I'm on my second cup. See that wiggle? Yeah. We'll try to be as safe as possible, but you know, these guitars should have a little relicking on them, so if I slip, it just adds to the character. These guitars are like $7,000 or $8,000. This might be the most expensive electric guitar I've ever had in the shop. So now that all this stuff gets loose, we can pull it out completely outside of the guitar. I'm going to mask off the guitar so I don't get any solder burns on the back. The first thing we can do is test the pickups. These are the new pickups from Bare Knuckle, handmade in the UK. Thank you for making these. Alright, so the ground or the black lead goes to the braided cable and the red goes to the tip or the hot. And then we turn on the meter. We've got it set to 200,000 ohms and it's reading 7.7 thousand ohms. That's a nice resistance for a bridge pickup. Now, without even turning anything off, we can move it to the neck pickup and get a reading on the neck. At 6.9 thousand ohms, 6.8, that's a nice resistance for a pickup, in my opinion. Well, I was denied the luxury of pulling everything up outside of the cavity. There's not enough slack in the bridge pickup wire or the neck pickup wire, I don't believe. But the next thing we can do is put a what they call a heat sink or an alligator clip made of copper on the capacitor leads, because the capacitors are vulnerable to heat, and if any of the heat transfers over from the back of the pot down towards the capacitor, it'll be absorbed by this copper, because copper is a very good conductor of electricity. So is gold, and then nickel or whatever this silver colored stuff is isn't quite as good as the copper. So if there's any heat, it'll be absorbed and this thing will get warm before it gets warm enough to damage the capacitor. That's really important because these babies are probably $100 each or something. I have no idea. I never use anything like this because my ear cannot tell the difference between a ceramic, a polyester, or a paper and oil. I'm just not that sensitive, but I do have a good ear. I've got the entire top masked off with this low-tack tape, and this heavier tack tape is just holding the pieces together, except for that one spot. That's the spot where a piece of solder is going to fly through the air and land right there. Guarantee you, every time that's what happens. But got the soldering pen and the solder. Starting to warm up. I've had my 2 cups of coffee, so my hand is as shaky as possible. That is the bridge pickup lead wire. The copper heatsink is lukewarm. It didn't heat up to burn enough to burn me or anything, so we're safe. I'm going to pull that bridge pickup out and shave down that pickup ring of just eyelash. I know it's kind of kooky, but it's just plastic, guys. Probably cost about 8 cents to make one of these. Here's the new one. Luckily, it drops right in. No modifications needed. Let's secure it in place and solder it on. Let's solder it on home, baby. Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Hey. This new lead wire is way longer than the stock factory Gibson lead wire. My voice sounds muffled because I wear one of these kind of COVID-19-ish kind of masks while I'm soldering. Just to prevent breathing in fumes. Breathing in that smoke, I mean. It's a very smoky job. Whoa! There we go. Just didn't even get really hot again. It's pretty quick. See why we use the low-tech tape is because not really for new instruments like this so much. Well, if you're soldering, you always want to protect the guitar, but as far as the low-techness of the tape goes, when you're working on the vintage instruments, boy, if their lacquer has been compromised, you can peel a layer of that lacquer right off the wood. Guild and Gretsch vintage ones, I don't know if it's because they didn't get as much wear. Oh, look at that though, there's some color. Some color coming off, transferring onto that. I don't know why we've got a little pink color transferring off onto this tape here. That's interesting. Not up here though, so much. Right there. What is... Oh! That might be the buffing compound residue. Like I said, this one is not polished as quite as shiny as a usual brand new Gibson. Oh, I did notice one more cool thing that's different about this one than your standard is the nylon nut. See how nice and white it looks? And it's all plasticky? Interesting. Maybe that's why he thought it sounded muddy. Maybe he wants to go to a bone nut eventually. We'll see. There's my 66 GTO. They say there was something special in the water back there in Michigan back in the ancient times. Because, you know, in '59 they'd already made one of the most beautiful guitars designed and built in Michigan. In a couple years to come they were to be putting, you know, Mustangs, Corvettes, GTOs, all those beautiful cars were coming off the line there. He also had Motown music coming out of that state at that time. Man, there's something to say about that. Something special in the water, and it was probably some kind of contaminants because they were shooting insecticides and herbicides and all kinds of crazy chemicals on the crops back in those days. All that stuff's been outlawed now, but for a little while it seemed to make everybody very creative. Bridge. Neck pickup. Bridge pickup. No complaints. How about the neck? Not too bad. Not bad. I like it. So one of the last things that I was requested to do was do the overwrap on the tailpiece. Now, I don't know what the general consensus is on doing this, but I just played the crap out of this guitar and it feels frickin' awesome. You can bend with very little resistance. And these 10s feel like 9s. That's all I'm saying about it. Top wrapping makes 10s feel like 9s on occasion. I mean, it depends on the guitar. You got to give it a try on your guitar just to see if you like it or not. But, you know, I like it on this guitar. And another thing I've figured out about this guitar is that when I peeled that tape off and it had that rouge or reddish colored buffing compound that came off, is what I realized is that they only run this guitar through the coarse buffing wheel. Typically they spend a lot more time getting the lacquer to perfection. I'm talking about orange peel and stuff like that. They left a little behind on this guitar. They didn't do as much work on this guitar as they do on the regular production as far as, you know, the detail finishing work and the buffing, which is interesting. This is the type of finish that I actually, when I do a finish, a clear coat finish on the guitar, I tell everybody it's not going to be perfect. It's going to have swirl marks and stuff because I haven't been doing that this very long now, only 3.5 years, and I'm just not that good to do a factory quality finish. But this is actually what people pay extra for sometimes, and he's got another Les Paul that he's bringing in. When the weather warms up a little bit, we're going to do some finish work on it, and we're going to do this kind of coarse wet sand and medium, actually On my buffing wheel, the red compound is like a medium, they call it. So, cool guitar.